Oh, Arsenal are not messing around in any of these, last 4 transfer windows now? Meaningful signings in each of the windows, and every time you've seen the squad get slightly better, some improvements made, some depth added, some genuine changes to the formations that Mikel Arteta can play, and things are looking pretty good for Arsenal right now. They're adding, or at least trying to add, strength and depth with a £60 million bid to Brighton for Moises Caicedo. Or is it Caicedo? I'm pretty sure it's Caicedo. So if you've not been saying that, like me, you're learning something new. Welcome back to the Laurence McKenna channel. It's good to have you guys. New me, new background. No, I don't live somewhere new. I'm in France. I'm in Nice with BT Sport and League 1 and Uber Eats. Thanks a lot for bringing me, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot to you guys for being the audience on the channel. There will be videos in the coming days. If you've not already subscribed, hit it. Anyway, I love talking about Arsenal right now. Arsenal are the most exciting team in the league to talk about. They're the most exciting team in the league to actually watch. Yeah, that's true. They're also the one on pretty much the best trajectory right now. I know that some people think they may have leveled out, but this side do seem to be getting more strength and depth. They do seem to be improving in the football and the dynamism that they have. And, well, Caicedo would be a meaningful signing to that midfield. It's whether they can get him for 60 million, but we'll talk about the price more in a second. He's been fantastic this season for Brighton. I went to watch him in Brighton against Liverpool. He absolutely demolished Liverpool's midfield and was a huge part of why those guys had such a foothold against such a weak Premier League team. But he's been that way and that reason for so many other matches this season. Not only that, we've seen this in Ecuador. We've seen this for the Ecuadorian team as well. And you can tell why Arsenal are interested. He could be a great replacement for Granit Xhaka on one side. He could also be a meaningful replacement for Thomas Partey on the other. So there are, similar to a lot of Arteta signings more recently, multiple positions that he could play in. There is also the possibility that, similar to a lot of Arteta signings recently, or the Arteta era signings, we could see him deployed in a way that Arteta prefers, rather than, say, a Graham Potter or a De Zerbi at Brighton. There is an excitement around signing these players because, well, damn it, when we had Zinchenko at Man City, we thought he was good. It turns out he's even better when he's at Arsenal. When we had Gabriel Jesus at Man City, we thought he was good. Turns out he's even better at Arsenal. The list goes on. You know what I'm saying, though. These last few meaningful transfer windows, Arsenal have found players, improved them, put them in the positions that they need, and added depth, but also quality to the squad. So that is exactly what he's going to do. Can he sit deep if he's in that Partey role? Push a Granit Xhaka further up the field? Would you play a Vieira more? I've really enjoyed Arsenal when they've had the Odegaard-Vieira combination or Odegaard +1, and there's always this, it's not positionless football, it's very much positioned football, but the adaptability and the fluid nature of the midfield that Arsenal have is really enjoyable to watch. Clearly they know what their roles are, and they always identify the six. There's always someone sitting a bit deeper to anchor that midfield and give the backline the cover that they need. That could be Moyes himself. And then, of course, that frees up another player, often offers an overload or at least a triangle that Arsenal can play through, if not a box or a quad that they can get into. And very often you'll see it just works. And if it just works with the likes of Partey and Xhaka, players who have been adapted during this Arteta era, then imagine what it's like when they sign a player that literally any Premier League team would be welcoming. That's pretty insane when you think about it. Liverpool were quoted something like 75 million and told he is not available this window. Chelsea quoted similar. They still bid the 55 million though, because, hey, we're all cheeky out there, right? But if Arsenal were to beat both those teams to this signing and add more depth while they are streaking ahead of both these sides, then it just shows how good Arsenal's business can be and what a tempting proposition they are to top players, but also to top clubs. These clubs like, your Southamptons, your Brightons, your selling clubs essentially. Then I don't want to call them feeder clubs, but selling clubs to the teams higher up the league, not only financially because it's worth the investment and, they're clearly looking to flip a buck, but also because they know, well, if we sell this guy, we can go and reinvest that money again and probably double up and double up and double up, right? But he's been more than that value for them as well. It's great that when Graham Potter left, there was so much praise going his way. But there was also a lot of praise going De Zerbi's way because the likes of Caicedo were allowing him to transition into the team really easily because, well, it turns out that having good players makes you a better manager. Not only that, but he's been coached up. He's clearly playing multiple different positions. He's clearly also playing well under multiple different systems as well. So not only is there the Graham Potter, but there's also De Zerbi. And not only that, but I would love to see him in a more attacking position as well. Arsenal have also been rumoured and linked with some other people in the league as well, and also linked with other midfielders. You can see Thuram here in Nice himself. Would you love to see someone like him coming along, freeing up? I mean, it would be Caicedo that would free him up, but there would be someone like him coming in. Maybe they've already got Vieira, maybe they've already got someone else, but if you replace the Xhaka type, what else can you do? And then on top of that, you could also go for, say, another holding midfielder like a Declan Rice. Now, that would mean that one of those two guys, if not both of them, could sit at the base of midfield when they need to be defensive, get in the way of people, break it up, essentially play really simple passes. They both have really high pass accuracy because they play the simple passes, and they also play it around the corner, little 1-2s. Their movement is fantastic. That's what Arteta's looking for. He's looking for movement in these areas that's going to confuse, back the other opposition off. That's where Odegaard can do his best work. That's where an Nketiah can get in between the lines. Beyond the lines, and Odegaard can get in between the lines. And that is also where you're going to see the likes of Martinelli and Saka pushing even further up, being able to run at their fullbacks, being able to run at the centre-backs from the positions they don't feel comfortable in. And you can also bring your line even higher, which at the moment is working for Arsenal because they've got the depth, the youth and the pace in order to play it, right? And not only that, but if you've got a Caicedo and a Zinchenko in the side, you've got that adaptability. I don't want to call it positionless football because I did just use the word 6. He could play the 6 or the 8. I don't want to use the idea that, well, he's not going to play in just any position. I love him in the idea of a 6 in this Arsenal team. I think it opens up a lot of positions for them. I think it also opens up a lot of possibilities for this Arsenal side in terms of just being able to rotate their team. If you do want to drop Partey out, if you do want to drop Xhaka out, both of those guys are going to need replacing. I spoke about it in my Declan Rice video. I've spoken about it in other Arsenal videos. Strengthen while you are strong is a great transfer policy. It's the kind of thing that I've said alongside a True Geordie, a Rory, all those guys who we used to have on the kickoff and obviously don't anymore. But, it's an interesting proposition. And it's also an exciting one because if they get Caicedo now, it kind of makes you wonder about what they're going to do in the summer. Kind of makes you wonder about how they're going to push for a title. Kind of makes you think, well, what they also need to do is begin to prepare for the depth that they're going to need in order to play in the Champions League next season. Because, I mean, let's be honest, that looks pretty certain at the moment that they're going to get into the Champions League at this point. There's also obviously the opportunity that Arteta gets to change that player. We saw that Gabriel Jesus signed from Man City, went to Arsenal, and it opened up and unlocked a whole new set of attributes, should we say. Not that we didn't know that he wasn't a facilitator, but there was just so much energy. There was so much that they thought, wow, look at what we got from this one signing. And even then, it maybe sometimes feels like Arsenal are fleecing the guys they're buying off. And so 60 million at the moment is very good value for a midfielder. It's the new 40 million. It's possibly even the new 30 million considering the price of a Jude Bellingham. And let's face it, Arsenal aren't going to be competing for a Jude Bellingham. So they need to look to turn this midfield over in a more efficient way than, say, a Man City or a Real Madrid will be looking at right now. And let's face it, that's also probably a good policy for them. You don't want to go signing players just for the sake of signing a player. I'd love to see Jude Bellingham in an Arsenal shirt if he doesn't go to Liverpool. But at the same time, Arteta's got a lot of options right now. He's also got a lot of attractiveness. He's got a lot of gravity within the league. Capitalise on that. Bring players in. Make it a longer-term prospect than it already is. Make sure that Arsenal can also challenge next season too. Because let's face it, if Arsenal need to continue to win this league, they're going to need to sign some players. A lot of people are pointing out that Arsenal may burn out. They've got to 50 points at the halfway point in the season. And sure, that's great. But they've also got to a point in the season where it's like, okay, if they can get 100 points over all those games, that's an exhausting prospect for a squad so small. They're going to need more depth in there in the first place. So adding at this point is only going to strengthen them going into next season. Going into the Champions League gives them time to bed a Caicedo in. Doesn't mean that they need to go through a pre-season where they are just bedding him in, then getting him to know the team. He can do that pretty immediately anyway. It's also, let's face it, a pretty seamless signing for Arsenal. So far, they've managed to integrate a lot of their signings very quickly because the coaching seems to be very clear. The message is very clear. And not only that, but other players within the squad know their roles really, really well. It's something that Arsenal in previous eras struggled to do. And now they're turning over a different level of efficiency. They are a different team now. Their identity is different to before. They are no longer the banter club that miss out on people. They are no longer the team that need to bid low amounts for players. They're going to bid smart amounts for players. And if it goes over a certain amount, Arsenal just aren't going to go for it. They don't want to get into a bidding war. They don't want to have a player play them off. If the player wants to do either of those things and Brighton want to scare them off, sure, maybe they'll come back in the summer, maybe they won't come back at all. But the fact is, there's value in the market and Arsenal know that. So they're not going to overpay, like for a Mudryk. They're not going to overpay for any of these guys. Which also gets me to the point of his fee. 60 million is a good price for this guy, right? But at the same time, if it goes to 80, you've got to wonder where the value is in that, whether there is a better prospect out there, whether there is another player that's coming through. There are some very promising prospects coming through at Arsenal at the moment. Whether there are at least some other players in the market that can mimic what it is that he does, or maybe be a better prospect. I love the idea of a Rice coming in, and I don't know if you want to sign Declan Rice, whether you need a Caicedo as well. Both players, both great, both luxuries, but also great players to build around. A good spine for at least the next 5-6 seasons. So, sure, I don't see Partey and Xhaka as those next 5-6 years. I could see both of those guys being senior players, or kind of the senior one that trains the guy below, or is a great rotational player. But we can't see that that's going to be a midfield that will be able to play possibly 60 games next season. That's just not going to be possible for Arsenal. So they need to bring this depth in. Fabio Vieira has been brought in for that, and he's sort of been bedding in very slowly. I'm enjoying watching him bed in. Like I said, I think it's great when they have someone sitting. Vieira comes on for a Xhaka and things sort of change a little bit in terms of shape. But not only that, I think Caicedo is clearly also an international player who is only going to improve in quality and also going to improve any top Premier League side. He's improved Brighton, he's improved with De Zerbi, and clearly he's an important player for them. You see where the ceiling's going here? Like, if he's playing well for Brighton and we think Brighton's ceiling is extremely high, what's Arsenal's ceiling with that? So let me know what your thoughts are on the signing of Caicedo. If it was to happen, what fee do you think he'll go for? I'm thinking it's 70 to 80 if they're going to get any value in January. But I also can't see an Arsenal paying that in January. If they do, credit to them. They've gone around and got a cheaper version of Mudryk in Trossard, or it's not a cheaper version of Mudryk, but he's a cheaper version of what it is that they will want to sign in that position, and he's a very good, cost-effective version of that. At the same time, does that mean there's still some money there to spend for Arsenal? Or is there always money there to spend for Arsenal? I'm interested to know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Don't hit subscribe if you're not interested. If you are interested, hit it. We're on our way to 100k. What can I say? It's nice here. See you guys in the one. Much love. Bye.